Mbukela sikuvusele sikwemukele lihlelweni Tasephalamende kunguye lesibili ebusuku sethemba Thimbela Somvo alisibuya kuyo sole ikuphethe kahle imphela libito lami ngisamkelisiwe ngwakakhoza kanti mbukele lihlelweni ngeselo siyachubeka sibuka yona indzaba yemaphakelo eminyakati imali wa 2024-2025 letfulwa nguye indvuna yetemafa umhlonishwa neRickenback lang 29.42 billion emalangeni labuke ukuthi live laseswatini litawuthuthuka nhlangothi tonke kanti ke lindlu yaba esikhulu ke yachubeka nekudzikinisa lamaphakelo kuchisa lona litiko letemafa ukuthi nguphulumende langaqinisa ngakhona kuqinisekisa ukuthi tonke tinhlangothi tahulumende nawo emaswati khona emimangweni ayitfola indzaba yayo intuthuko mbukela sivele singachisi sona sikhathi singene kuwe malunga endlu lehloniphekile yaba esikhulu
kulandzela umhlonishwa wasesithobelweni umhlonishwa Silongonyane.
Ngitawucala ngibonge indvuna finance nelibandla sibonge ukukhula kwetimali ka-education bese kuthandazela iminyaka siyabonga ukubona 17% imali lenengi kakhulu mayibuka the overall noma ke le total amount yale budget siyakubonga lokho sesithandazela ema controls khona ka education lokuthi letimali letile phela kumonitor into letimbili kwecala kumonitor i-timely execution kusheshe phela kwendeke kungevakala ukuthi imali ya release yakuphi kuphi baze bateleke abantu kuze kube njani solo ingayiswa ngoba kubese kwenda ngathi uhulumende akasebenzi sithandazele ukuthi ke diphinze phela allocate kahle disebenzele lokufanele vele ungathi bekungaba khona nekubuketwa kakhulu indzaba dabo digitalization lekungitona la umhlaba sowubheka khona kuyo le budget sibonge ke nenzaba 500 kilometers nami ngithi ngiyibonge ngoba yangithinta esithobelweni kakhulu indzaba emgwaqo sithi Minister Finance siyabonga ukuthi uyindvuna leyatiko esithobelweni kusho akushona kusho le budget lokuthi kune gravel le funds ishintshe ibe yitha first class road siyakubonga kakhulu ke lokho youth ingu 70% kani umuntu angakhuluma ngayo angakhuluma angabonga nemali ya micro projects lebasayibonga sibayibongela nami esithobela ngiyayibona imali ya micro projects kodwa kube kucela ukuthi going forward loyo 5-10% increase ku micro projects bekungasisita kakhulu ngoba njengoba sebashito vele iyabonakala literally ungayikhomba ukuthi nasakhiwe micro projects nali ibloho bengaweleki umuntu noma ngawufile ibhokisi lihlale lamahlombe kwelwe umfula uqwele lokunye kuhlehliswe nemingcwabo siyabonga kakhulu lokuthi akhumbuleke micro projects na lo commission sethemba ukuthi njengoba sekukhaliwe vele utawukhunjula emalini ka health bese ngithi ke iyouth ingu tibalo emhlabeni tikhomba ukuthi generally ing 70% kusho ukuthi kubantu abasilishumi labasikhombisa babani labasha ngitawucala ke ngingene lapha ka agriculture ngithi ka agriculture siyayibonga ibudget yakhona kunema improvements lamahle lafa ekhathi lapha kubo input subsidy program lo holwa nge-NMC uyalibona lolusito siyalima nalamaswati silime kuqinile kucala lo hlelo lolusayibona le save the ease of our shoulders siyakubonga kakhulu lokho nemali lapha yaka 35 million lebeka agriculture noma ke le allocate agriculture revolving fund siyayibonga Minister Agriculture siyayibonga Minister Finance namba ke ni siyambonga mangifunza kuthiwa 2.5 utasikhulisela umnotho GDP nga 0.25% sesithandazela ukuthi kulungiswe lokulungiswa ko controls again kuze sithole maximum profit out of lenzaba sempakeni ngicela lokuthi ke le budget agriculture masiyibuka kube khona imali econzene ngco ne youth empowerment through agriculture ngoba mangifunza kubalwa kude lele ngathi iallocate specifically kubantu labasha even kanti ngibo kakhulu labedi imisebenzi ngibo kakhulu labacetha emanyuvesi bahlala emva kwetitolo ngikusho lokho ngoba ngikholelwa ukuthi kuze umuntu ende kahle ibhizinisi kufuna abe nendzathu kufuna abe nale imali eqala lebhizinisi abe nesikhathi sekuyirana le business bese uba nalolwadi lole business laba ke lababuye emanyuvesi bantu labasha ikakhulu sebana lo nelwadi sebana sona isikhathi ngoba they are unemployed kodwa kushoda le mali ngeke sizike nala agriculture kube bengaba khona a certain percentage mhlambe kulo 1 point something billion mhlambe 200 million kuthi lona utaqonzana ngco nemabhizinisi aka agriculture youth bangacompete nalabantu abadzala ngoba mangabe umuntu lomusha lona 24 years akhompithela kuthenga noma ke kurana ifarm noma kurana ini nje tinkhokho whatever tinkomo akhompitha nemlo mdzalelo sone ma records yena kuthi noke wathi fuya noma kwakwendelo kanje lo mdzala sone unfair advantage ngoba yena so we seasoned waphinze wathola futhi experience lenengi utawukhana sithi imali eningi sithi conza lo mdzala kanzi nalona lomusha siyafuna ukuthi asukume sithi ke sicelela lokho nje ukuthi kube khona a certain allocation specifically to youth ka agriculture enzabeni yaka health kube ne conference 2009 yaka Mhlaba anginokwenza kakhulu ngayo la khona live la kangwane belikhona laphinze la signa laphinze laba ingcenya lomuthalo le recommenda ka official le declaration I recommenda lokuthi 15% of the budget ayeka health mangibuka ke le khona nyalo la ithi ngemabomu nje singathi 10% mineke ngiyakubonga kakhulu lokho Minister Finance ngoba enzabeni ye corruption kunematiko lamaningi latsinzekako and this is not personal akaconza nabo minister latsinzeka ngingacela lokuthi mase kulungisekile lethi ngiyacela kokucala ukuthi athi lungisheshe tilungiseke letindzaba dabo corruption letitfolakele kulamatiko kungaba kushoda kwemithi kungaba kushoda kwani ematiko nje across and then mase ilungisekile bese mhlambe going forward simconsider lo 15% la ka health vele nguyena la ngakhetharisha labo look commission akhetharisha nani kunesibhedlela nje lengakithi sithobeleni kuyesabeka labantu abahleti latitulweni uhlale liqedwini lesitulo uyabona ukuthi kulukhuni nje ngisho ku maintainer not to even consider ku developer noma kwakha lokusha so otherwise siyambonga nalo 10% ngicela enzabeni ema sports sikuconsider kule budget ku commercializer ema sports my simple definition of commercialize in this case ukuthi lama sports abe nako ukuthi angenise imali hayi la dolobheni phela kodwa nale maphandleni esithobela nje kune sports center sesina over 10 years kodwa solo asisiko fully functional kwafaka imali lapha millions kusele kancane nje siphele so ngicabanga ukuthi kube leso structure leso sesiphelile ngayinengi imali kulo 10 years lesiyibuthile ngoba makune game yinye yinengi imali circulator ko ishintshanisa setandla ngoba ngicabanga imali mayishintshanisa setandla umnotho uyaphakama isuku lo makalo thengisombila ilo thengisi ice iye grafela iye kuma gate takings iye kuphi so siyacela ke lokuthi kutasisita kakhulu lokho lokuthi lama facilities la khona lemaphandleni asheshe abe kulesigaba sekuthi abe fully functional kuze kuthi lo to booster le livelihood yale community kwende nesiqiniseko ukuthi imali ya circulator masinyane siphinze ke sibuke nenzaba yiku trainer
Mhlonishwa sesithobelweni wayindapha Mhlonishwa
siyabonga Mr Speaker ngitawudlula ngithi mangiwayindapha ngicele ukuthi enzabeni yaka energy inzaba yagesi sekuyatiwa ukuthi 2025 sivumelwano sethu nebaka Eskom sesiyaphela kuze ke indvo singeti la eParliament ingaka ayini ngoba sekude gas ngiyacela ukuthi lelo diko limane lisheshe lisukumele inzaba yaka yekuthi sithi phehlele gesi lamaphakelo akhetharishe lokho na RDF siyambonga kodwa sicela lokuthi la ka RDF le mali yale tinkundleni imane nebakithi kube nendlela yokuthi imonitheke ikakhulu lokuthi kuthiwe le mali seyijikile laba lebafanele sibende show siyasebenza le mali ngoba sithi lamaswati kube khona luswati olusithe ukuthi izijika imali nje wena kunene kwendekeni ngoba uhulumende bekayikhokhile ukuthi sithi lamaswati ngale kwaloko le budget siyayibonga cishe kulokunyendi iyakhulumisana netidzingo temaswati nebantu balesithobelweni siyabonga
Sibonga kakhulu Mhlonishwa sesithobelweni umhlonishwa wasemayiwani Mhlonishwa Prince Dlamini
sibonge kakhulu Speaker nendlu yonke cha sithandza ukuthatha leli thuba nathi sidumise
cisha ncesi Mhlonishwa cisha sithobelweni
sithatha leli thuba sidumisa speech sakhe Minister Finance njoba sashidwe malunga ukuthi sikhaverisha tonke letinto mhlambe le emaswati akhala ngato mhlambe kwami kungaba kuva lokuthi engabe etinhlelweni takhe minister nelibandla lakhe la ka finance bakubuke ukuthi kutawuqala nini ukuthi le budget iyoqala emayiwani kube nje lemgwaco ngeva ukuthi wonke lokhuluma imigwaco lengala libonjeni boshiselweni kuthi lokhuluma ngeyaka ho vele yaka ho itawunakekelwa nini kanti be le budget beyisuka emayiwani ngabe ngiyadivela nami ukuthi cha kutawendeka eMaswati esibayeni akhala emhlonishwa speaker nge-service delivery. Na uthi uyalandzelela i-service delivery ifaka ekhathi ema-issues emigwaqo nemanti. Mhlonishwa speaker buhleni lo sekhatsi emayiwane lidolobha lelinibutsa nonke la kaNgwane. Just recently nibiya khona nonke nibofakazi emandi benwathenga esitolo kude emandi ebuhleni. I was happy ukuthi ubikile omnye somabhizinisi wathi emandi kude yathi ingwenyama akahambe bo minister bayofaka emandi ebuhleni, minister housing na minister natural resources. Umbuto uthi nabe ingwenyama yakhuluma ngemgwaqo losuke ebulanzeni uyespeak sami yezago engabe emandi atawungena yini emayiwane. Nalokuthi ke sipika labantu basemayiwane bathi lokuthi nakuyiwe emaganweni imigwaqo yabo yolungiswa. To their surprise this time around akugendeki tifikile tikhuluma ngamangala ukuthi works unetikhuluma letingaka kwasetshena lapha in 2 days but labambi lebasuka lemakhaya baye emaganweni abakatholi kusitakala tajika tikhuluma tabele emva tingakasithi umuntu. Nasta la parliament last week imoto yamlesha lena 2 weeks ihlatshwe ekhatse emgwaqweni Mr Speaker. Ngingene ka Prime Minister kunanalitiko nalemaphoyisa kunemaphoyisa Mr Speaker. Emaphoyisa Speaker enda umsebenzi lomuhle la kaNgwane kude longakwati lo sila sikhona namhla because of emaphoyisa. Siyabonga ukuthi kule budget uvetile minister ukuthi utawakhela tindlu. Ngiyakhuthata lokuthi akungabi on paper vela amaphoyisa akakhelwe tindlu atohlala kahle angayi emsebenzini ane stress. Just last year we had a case lapho khona kuthiwa liphoyisa lirepe lomunye lebehlana endlini umfatwa lomunye. Now uthi akulandzelela labami mhlambe bebasemathandweni but now uthi basherisha kakhulu ufake lithawula lakhe uye kitchen liyabona liphoyisa sifo semadvodza kubona speak. So siyacela ukuthi vele letindlu tela maphoyisa atakhiwe. Umbuto bongathi ke speaker engabe letimoto letithengelwe emaphoyisa lama single cab ma Toyota asalunga yini lesikhathi sanamhla sibuya ku unrest speaker 2021. Le moto le ilayisha 2 abantu ngumshayeli bese ilayisha lo laceleni lophethe isibhamu nemabhuku. Kusalunga indvele laveni ukuthi sibe naleti moto leto liphoyisa kubikwe ukuthi kune robhali kuphume 2 emaphoyisa na. So ngiyacela Minister Finance leti moto temaphoyisa atithengwe yebo ke kube nema policies lokuthi kutawuhamba kanjani kuze imoto tiphatheke kahle. Mhlambe lena lengena kuyo speaker ngeke yabamnanzi kepha indzaba lekhona 2016 bengikhona nami laveni kwathiwa emaphoyisa atawukhushulelwa mhlambe etimbasheni kwathiwa batawunikwa timbasha tsite speaker letimbasha se-30 waligama kwathiwa phase 2 lo phase 1 speaker bekuthi kutawunikwa le mali kunikwe labaphathi laba la embuthweni ngekwati kwami mhlambe nginelwathi lolincane banikwa labaphathi balamaphoyisa kwase kuthi naba laba letigabeni letincane balinza baze eminyakeni lophelele benta into lengazange lesingafisi ukuthi ike yendeke eveni ukuthi liphoyisa litawe emgwaqweni liyowutoyitoya. Siyathemba lenye ilanga live liyawaqolele emaphoyisa ngaloko kepha atoyitoya lamaphoyisa speaker athini athi babe wathi utasithengela ticathulo so bathengele labanye thine solo sisele as a result speak. Now ubuka le gap between leliphoyisa lelincane nalamaphoyisa lamadzala inkulu kakhulu speak. Ngiyacela minister nangibuka lapha lendlalo beke ngayo kude la ubeke khona ukuthi lenzaba leyo utayilungisa kanjani minister. Ngiyacela nangabe ikhona ayilungiseke ilinyeva lelikhulu kulamaphoyisa. Kuna nanga ema colleges la khona nga education yalo speaker. Kuna nanga ema colleges la khona just kuthandi. I had another child ufunze kulenye college ngeke ngisho ngeligama. Nakafika ka TSC bathi asifune certificate lesasad. Hamba ka ashek kanjani njanyana. Lo mfana ufunze 4 years. abhadala imali yakhe uthi uhulumende le certificate leso akazirecognize vala phela uhulumende lama colleges la ngadzingeki lapha even ungayekele emaswati afunze ngetimali titfoleka kabuhlungu bese kugcineni uthi angeke usabaqasha ngeke ngisakhuluma speaker engenza bebantwana labahlete ekhaya vele bahlete speaker ihalf isesikolweni sengila kuma scholarships
Yeah, mhlonishwa wasemayiwane wayinda pha mhlonishwa.
sengila kuma scholarships Mr Speaker umfana utshelwa ukuthi wabana 34 points utosiphola scholarship nakafika ka scholarship angasiphola scholarship imagine the depression lekangene lefikela lo mfana le angiphethe speaker nindzaba yebo housing allowance ethi 70 mbuzo mina nje bengiliphoyisa etshaneni ngicashe idlu ngaphandle ngibhadala 1854 but hulumende anginika 601 rand ngiyacela ukuthi kubuketwe lokho kuze lamaswati angakhali 600 uyanginika hulumende shothi mina ngifuna ngete 1.2 kule mali lencane ngicela ibuketwe lenzaba inganyetelwa ngoba tsine sithola ihousing allowance leseduru kwegcina speaker nange majala ahletla misebentini kanti sekafike ku 60 years la kahulumende akahambe phela ayekhaya ayodlalisa abantwana kutokhona ukuthi naba bantwana labahletle emakhaya bathole lemsebenzi kanti bona sebahletlene nemali yabo batayidlanini bangaye emakhaya siyabonga speaker ngiloko lokubuye emayiwane
Sibonga kakhulu mhlonishwa wasemayiwane cima mhlonishwa wasemayiwane umhlonishwa kaHoho mhlonishwa Tanele Magagula Wonqesi mhlonishwa Tanele kune mhlonishwa Nokuthula waseMasayisini.
Ngiyabonga Mr Speaker ngisukuma nge-point of order. Bengingakathanzi ukudisturba umhlonishwa Mayiwane a debater but kunengcingwana lengakehli kahle kithi sibomake ukuthi nakabekisa kuthi ngendeka lo make ureshwe ngoba abevunule lithawula waya ekitchen. Akwehli kahle lokho kithi sibomake ukuthi nasireshwa kuthiwe ngesizathu lesithide. Ngiyacela umhlonishwa asi withdraw leso statement ngoba si very sensitive.
Sibonga kakhulu mhlonishwa wasemayiwane mhlonishwa waseMasayisini mhlonishwa wasemayiwane yenda njalo mhlonishwa
angixolise angihoxise kulelo gama speaker lehle kabi kubahlonishwa ebeyincane ngiyabonga speaker
Sibonga kakhulu mhlonishwa wasemayiwane mhlonishwa Tanele Magagula mhlonishwa kawo.
Thank you Mr Speaker. Kwekucala nje ngicela kubonga le budget. Siyajabula kakhulu yinhle ibekeke kahle kakhulu kodwa ke sinema concerns ngivela ukuthi sito debate on the budget ngiko ngathi nami solo ngiyabuka ngiyalalela ukuthi impela sidaba banengana lababuta ko ngakho ukuthi nasifika sithi education iallocate 5 billion sifike njani la ku 5 billion what were the things letibukekile kule education sector before kuthiwe allocate lo 5 billion i-concern yami ithi ngabe vele were the relevant people involved before kufakwe leliphakelo leli ngibekisa nje le education nale health yinhle kakhulu le budget siyabonga ukuthi inkulu le mali but kunema concerns lamakhulu like ngiyabuka ukuthi are our hands ready to handle this package lesiniketwe yona sing education dikhona invele letinto akhona inema strategies lesesinawo on how to work around on such a package because ngibuka page 20 paragraph 59 la kuthiwa khona the government has converted 794 temporary teachers into permanent and pensionable positions nginema concerns ukuthi nangemambala vele siyavuma bothishela they have been hired permanently in those posts labafakwe kiwo but ngiyatibuta ukuthi is this a true reflection of what has happened in the education sector because now ulandzelela you will find ukuthi kunabothishela who were trained to be high school teachers then they have been hired now to be permanent le primary labe babambe khona yet they are qualified to be in high schools. Thus sekwendi influx kulaba laba se laba trainer for primary education sebahlete ekhaya ke labo because the high school lo 794 nje la ngiyayibuka ipercentage lecashwe kahle relevant kule post labafanele ngabacashwe kiyo labane ngibabo. When you follow up you'll find that they've been hired kuma position kuma posts langasiwo abo, of which siyijabulele sathi no kusebendekile kanti kunebani labakhala kwalabahlete emakhaya whilst others are holding posts not that they are not supposed to be holding. Kwekuqala lokho lenkubukile. Kwesibili kuleli phakelo lakhe education ngibuke indzaba la ku page 21 paragraph 63 la kunya khona ukuthi government continued with the incremental rollout of grade 0 by ensuring an additional 80 classrooms with 20 classrooms established in each of 4 regions of the country. La introduced khona grade 0 ngatibuta kwekuthi ngabe vele sifika njani la, because there are so many things that are hanging like fanele ngabe tendekile ka education than introducing le program layer grade 0. I'm looking at the CBE that has been introduced in the schools. I'm concerned about the curriculum. Le CBE le introduciwe ifuna a lot of equipment for the teacher in the classroom to be able to apply le curriculum leyo kuza khona teacher la kufundzisa leyo CBE leseyifakiwe la tikolweni kufuneka a lot of equipment. Unfortunately sesi jump off singakabuki nalosi le CBE vele iyakhona implementeka kahle sesakhe nabo grade 0 kanti kwayona le curriculum lesinayo iyachutha. It needs to be looked at. Ngiva ngazuthi as education sector ngiyatibuta nje kwekuthi ngabe indvuna beyike yawabona yini lama stakeholders la consent kuleti info letita ka education ukuthi vele lamaphakelo lawa nasikhipa lo 5 billion utati naka in leti info lama corners lesikhuluma ngawo lawa. Kunana ilenye part lengifuna ukukhuluma ngayo still ka education kunenzaba inclusive education la khona kuthiwa asifake lonke lihlobo lemntwana eclassini laba disabled nayo yonke umntwana lo kanje, but sine challenge still in the schools ye infrastructure sakhe ma class lamasha bo grade 0 but infrastructure yethu solo ngileya itolo ayibavumeli bantwana laba disabled to attend le tikolo tethu. Ngisho ngani ke la ngaphandle na ufika nje kulama primary schools nema high schools usetha ukhanza kunaleti tebhisi takadzeni le whereby umntwana lo hamba ngewheelchair akakhoni kuhamba lapho. Lokunye lesiteko na in the classrooms sinabo bantwana labangeve tindlebeni sisete kwa unalama hearing aids uyafika nje lo mntwana ngoba inclusive ithi he must go to class nakefika eclassini the teacher is unable to teach the child because lo mntwana ayikho le facility ledzingeka go for the inclusive education lesi introduce. Then kunanaba labafundza ngema brails laba labafuna ukuthi bathinze kuze babone. You find that even in the classroom again kude leto tinsita leto talomphana losalanziwe ekhaya mhlawumbe lesithite ababuye bonke bete classini. Ngendlule senkoqoda ngiye ka health. I-concern yami lenkulu ke ka health ithi mayena khona muhle 5 billion. We are so happy siyathemba ukuthi mhlawumbe nayo i-health tandla tayo tilungele kuphatha le mali le ikhone kuyifaka la ifanele ingene khona. I-concern yami ithi ka health yini nje lokwenta kwekuthi sibebede institution let's trainela bodokotela bethu la kangwane whenever sidinga kuba na dokotela kufuna zaphume kuspendwe scholarship kuphuma imali in the country iyofundzisa umntana weLeswati lengephandle nakungakenteki ukuthi sigcine singhealth sicasha dokotela from outside kuzeta tosite eMaswati baphi bethu bodokotela lesikhicitela bona in the country. Why sibebede i-institution lesitrainela bothishela we-university lekhona ukuthi ngoba noma safundzile lo nurse ugcina nurse nasekufuna ahamba ufunza budokotela sekufuna cross aye ngephandle thus sekufuna kuphume a certain amount le ku scholarship seyiphinza deprive naba lekufanele ngabe bathola bayofunza kwekuqala. I thank you Mr Speaker.
Sibonga kakhulu umhlonishwa wakaHoho. Umhlonishwa waseligongolweni umhlonishwa Soza.
Asibonge Mr Speaker.
Sicela ucishe umhlonishwa wakaHoho.
Asibonge umhlonishwa Speaker lethuba lobanika lona baseligongolweni. Mr Speaker, anginoyibambelela indlu. Ngidawuqala nje nenzaba letendeke ka health lapha ku 17 ukuthi lama developments lendeke ka health awusivule singqondo tonke. Minister of Finance, we have done a very good job as far as this budget is concerned, but all the ministries are all corrupt. If you read every paper, it's talking about corruption. Do you have any measures on place to try to reduce these corruptions among the ministries? We can budget, we can tax people, but if we don't control corruption, we are wasting time.
Umhlonishwa induna yakatinkundla.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa Speaker. Umhlonishwa umuntu usoza zone malanga la Parliament ngilomnyelo omdzala Parliament. Kufanele sakhumbule ukuthi lapha Parliament akukhulunywa indlela akhuluma ngayo umhlonishwa. Akangathi ama ministries onga corrupt kanti ngeke akabeke lutho etafuleni. Akamane nje acele ukuthi induna ka finance ibekeni ukuthi lone corruption. Angathi is corrupt sonke ama ministries. Kanti usho kahle ngalo ukuthi ubone report ka health kuphela. Lama ngisho sakungahlolo enkundleni. Ngicela hoqise Speaker.
Mhlonishwa selgongolweni, mhlonishwa soza.
Asibonge Mr. Speaker. Usebenzisa experience yakhe umhlonishwa wase labamshobo wale. Cha Mr. Speaker, ngisho vela ngitsinzekile Mr. Speaker mangibona ireport yala ka health. Ngayibuka nale corruption la.
Mhlonishwa, umhlonishwa uthi hoqisa mhlonishwa. Asikeva ke ukuthi uyahoqisa yini.
Ngokumhlonipha ngiyahoqisa. Umhlonishwa wasengweni ngiyahoqisa mhlonishwa.
Sibonge kakhulu mhlonishwa, ncese mhlonishwa soza abahlonishwa labahloniphekile. Ngiyacela bahlonishwa kumane sicedzele lo msebenzi sekusele nje bahlonishwa lababili kuphela. Ngaleso sizathu ngicela umhlonishwa lephini landvunankulu ngokuthi invoke a move to invoke standing order 263 to suspend standing order 31 kuze ukuthi indlu ikhona ukuchubeka icedzele lo msebenzi bahlonishwa lo sovele songasekugcineni. Mhlonishwa lephini landvunankulu.
Ngiyabonga Mr. Speaker. Ngicela indlu ingivumele si-invoke standing order 263 to suspend standing order 31 indlu tokuchubeka nemsebenzi. Thank you Mr. Speaker, back to move.
Sibonge kakhulu mhlonishwa, bahlonishwa sekumuviwe ngokuthi indlu invoke standing order 263 to suspend standing order 31 kuze ukuthi indlu tokhona kuchubeka nemsebenzi. Labavumelana naloko abathi ayi. Labangavumi bathi nay. The ayes have it. Mhlonishwa selgongolweni.
Mr. Speaker. Kasi ngikhona lapha Mr. Speaker ka healthy ngila page 18 ngicela kubuta nje enduneni lehloniphele because angayibona ibudget ye referral hospital eLubombo kuthi kuqedzela lesibhedlela se referral Lubombo kuze sito functiona complete as a referral hospital. Iphi angiboni ngoba nyalo mhlonishwa Speaker ungazi ukuthi clinic leya i-referral hospital ayikapheleli kepha nakuthi budget engibona ko Mr. Speaker. Bese ngibuya Mr. Speaker endzabeni ta education house babongile bahlosha ngete sayingena lapho. Lapha ke mhlonishwa lapha ngikhala khona lenye indzaba ya agriculture. Umhlonishwa wami gathi akhulume ngedeclaration yasemaputo. Twice bahlonishwa bo minister bashintshana ngaleli tiko. Sikhuluma ngale ndzaba ye declaration of Maputo whereby the declaration vele beyikhuluma ngalo 10% ye total budget yelive. Uthi kumuntu kenyalo Mr. Speaker uthi uyabuka last budget 2023-24 beyithi I total budget 1.6 billion. This time so ya reverse iya kuphi is 1.5 sendaweni vele. The very important tiko lelibaluleke ngaka la agriculture. Uhlazo lelehleni eveni bahlonishwa. Angeke sikudle konke sitawudlana nomhlonishwa lokho. Amaphenselo sitawudla ngani noba sidide manje siyacela mhlonishwa Speaker through wena Minister of Finance ukuthi for next budget please make sure ukuthi agriculture is one of the priority ministries. It's a request Honorable Minister. Ngisashito njalo Mr. Mhlonishwa natural resources La bahlonishwa bekune proposal lena elibonjeni yokuletha ihapa lapha elibonjeni enkundleni yaseligongolweni lo myese omabhizinisi ngithi ke Minister of Finance at least where's the money for feasibility study kuze kubonakala ukuthi lokuletha le hapa lapha ukuthi imkhumbi silanze imandi lapha elwandle emaputo etalanga seligongolweni bathi kusema emlilwane sitoletha tinaku yabona lemkhumbi lemkhulu thatha amagudzi washonisa ngaphesheya. Where's the money for feasibility study? Or is it feasible, Honourable Minister, as far as you are concerned? Mr. Speaker, sengikhuluma ngendzaba yemgwaqo la ku page 30, khuluma 500 kilometers. Are we talking about national roads? What about the feeder roads? Take for instance, uthola sinemgwaqo kuthiwa Mathetha khuluma ngakubomakhewu ukhuluma ngobolthathaweni akuhambeki during rainy season bantwana bajike banga esikolweni 5 days basola bayi ukuthi lo 500 kilometers utawucoverisha yini lama feeder roads or it's just national roads. Mr. Speaker, sekukhulunywa ke ngabo rural development ukhuluma whereby RDF nabo macro project. My suggestion is bahlonishwa through Mr. Speaker. Mina ngibona le mali ukuthi ayimase babudgetile labantu le at grassroots. Iye kule nkundla yaseligongolweni athi nje nkundla yaseligongolweni ngina 20 million from RDF na 5 million from micro project. Ucontrol ngibani ngule nkundla benkundla ngingayibona idelivery bahlonishwa. Le nto ingaba fast delivery one and futhi ku transfer le mali because it's within ngiyashona ngiyelani mina embhabani lanzi imali embhabani yosebenza eligongolweni angiqedze khona le Mr. Speaker. And then lastly bayakhala vele Honourable Speaker through and Mr. Minister of Finance bathi lama regulations RDF sebaqela ashinje come with a proposal ukuthi at least labantu noma ayedwana ayessele le mali RDF hayi ukuthi kuthiwa 5 webantu I mean 10 webantu uzokuthola le mali come with the regulations aswashinje as well as the micro project umuntu ayedwana sithi ngokuapprove ayithole le mali ukuthi nang 2 million hamba oqala umsebenzi wena yuthi uhambe uyosebenza hayi lokuthi kancane 10% 10% akuhambe kushintshe Mr. Speaker ngiyabonga selishonile.
Sibonga kakhulu mhlonishwa waseligongolweni mhlonishwa wekugcina ngci bahlonishwa angisho bahlonishwa nekuthi cha bahlonishwa mathuba nzeda wathola kuma portfolio committees indawo debate abahlonishwa ukukhulume lokho kusenhlitweni yakho bahlonishwa bangeva ngathi ngoba bekangakasukuma ayisale ninginika ngiyacela ukuthi kumane kungabi kanjalo bahlonishwa lithuba litaba khona ngwekugcina nje umhlonishwa wasemhlambanyathi mhlonishwa Dlamini.
Asibonga Mr. Speaker. Maybe most of the things they were discussed already. Sekungaba nje kuqala ngekubonga kuhlonishwa finance or Minister Finance for le budget. Kokuqala lengakubonga ngabonga ngivile ukuthi factory share emhlambanyathi kule financial year which is very recommendable and siyabonga kakhulu. Langubuka ko bahlonishwa labasolo bakubheka ICT ka ICT kuphakelwe about 542 million. Sikhuluma at an age where there is a fourth industrial revolution, at an age where ICT is very important, at an age where that is the only thing you can do to improve your economy. Tinto even tifika ngani by doing research, getting your own innovations, trying to market that so that you can get money. Mina nje ngibona ukuthi minister lana ubese solisika kancane kakhulu elikhekhe ngabe uyabazama because sidinga ukuthi ngabe siproducer ema robots lapha RSTP, siproducer a lot of things. Letawusita live, the market live, sikhone kuphila. Imisebenzi ingacreateka. Ngedlule lapho. Umhlonishwa wasemayiwane so ukhulumile ngako ngicansi kumbe bangayakushiya. Emhlamba nyathi ke sakhelene namangqongqo, sakhelana na Spoxosini. Lamgaphi ngeke ngimbale ngoba yena ude lenkinga. Lekithi bafuyi balahlekele tingomo. Ingomo basitshela labangale bathi sitayigcina kuyoyibuka emuseum. Now kuphuma abantu base South Africa bangene bathathe tingomo ebusuku. Sinemaphoyisa lama sesize siwahouse enkundleni. Bengacela nje Mhlonishwa kuthi sisiteni if you can build a police station emhlambanyathi itawukhona ukuthatha mangqongqo khona kuthatha Spoxosini. Mainly because imfuyo ngulapho khona eMaswati abeka khona imali yawo akhona ukuthi angasetakala kusasa. Now ngikuthinziswa yini sine problem Bunya police station ude timoto kude at all botsotsi uyabafika ubashayela ukuthi naba bathatha amaphoyisa ayofika kusasa. Na ufika eSouth Africa ufika nawo na ukhonile uphinza ujike nawo atibuka tinkomo. Now loba kungasida ke lapho umbutho defense force bayazama nabo asenibaside because if bebangathola letinto letinside etfana netimoto konke bekungeke kwendeke. Vele utawuva ukuthi emhlambanyathi sekuphinze kubulewe lomunye umuntu because lamaswati asadziniwe ngiyo lagcina thathela ahamba ayotfunela letingoma and inkumbi yawo abafike bawashaye ngale nalamaphoyisa lombala bafike bawafaka esibhaqo babuye batibuka tinkomo. Ngitawuphinzeke sekungaphinze ngicansi sesitakwenza ezemotion later on. Sitawucela vele ukuthi iMinister of Foreign Affairs asesikhulumele nalabo alingani bayo because siyaphela. Kungaba ngiloko nje speaker nekubonga ke ukuthi ithi sendiwe le budget sikhona kuphinze siphakele ngesikhathi. Mina ngibuye enyuvesi kude lutho like kude le wangiyekelisa nje mina ngabe ngiloko ngoba ufike eclassini uthi uyafundzisa bantwana balambile kude kudla abakasithola scholarship ubunawe ude ngisho lokusebenza so kusendanike silive asesithi siphakela sibe sitibeka letinto ngesikhathi kube bete lo tawuthi mina sola ngakutholi angisibekile ukuthi by this time imali lengakutabi khona asibanikeni kubuhlungu nje ukuthi utawubona a whole lecturer somebody with a PhD lomunye professor atoyitoya. It's very painful. We have turned our country into a mockery because siyaye sikhulume la sithi sitabanika singabaniki. So ngaba kucela nje ukuthi asesizameni ukuthi sende sihloniphe lelive sibahloniphe nalabantu abalaveni singabuki ukuthi thine kumbe kusasihambela kahle asibahlonipheni labantu sendeni tinto ngesikhathi sitatibona ke sitambona Vision 2022 utawendeka. Siyabonga.
Nangamambala emalunga eParliament siyabona ukuthi nangamambala eMaswati akhetha etinkundleni atsingisa wona emaphakelo elive achisa lona litiko letemafa. Kulesikhathi manje sitaya khona ititolo kembukele siphinze sibuye sichubeke nalo luhlelo Tasephalamende.
Behold, a new dessert invention, the Malva Tower.
Looks quite burnt.
It's called caramelized. When the sugar goes darker, look it up.
It smells burnt.
Caramelized.
How do you even burn malva?
Caramelized.
Fortunately, you can afford extra groceries for little oopsies like this.
Caramelized.
Shop red and save green with a Spar Festa basket for only 99 emalangeni. And save even more. Get Spar Long Life Milk 6-pack for only 103.99. 2-litre Lippy Fruit, just 39.99. 3 kg Sunlight hand washing powder, 79.99. 1 kg Kellogg's cornflakes, just 64.99. Or 4 10-gram Koo baked beans in tomato sauce. Buy 2 for only 28 emalangeni.
Caramelized.
And that's why we shop at Spar.
Mbukeli, welcome back. Selo sikulo hlelo Tasephalamende njengoba sesiwavile ke malunga lahloniphekile ayo indlu yaba esikhulu atsingitsa wona emaphakelo elive. Kulesikhathi samanje sitavele singene kuyo indlu nayituko letemafa umhlonishwa neRickenback lapha niketa khona indlu ehloniphekile Dimphendvulo.
Sibonge bahlonishwa bahlonishwa sebabutile bakhulumela sive semaswati bahlomisa endvuneni bafisa netimphendvulo ku minister benginibonga bahlonishwa nginibonga nje ama contributions enu lesenwendile lamahle sibili imibuto nekuhlomisa indvuna yaka finance kepha ke kuye kube kuhle bahlonishwa ukuthi induna sibese siyinika lithuba iphendvule le mibuto lebe niyibuta nduna yaka finance. It's your turn.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, if I can make a suggestion, actually, there's a lot of questions, and it'll take me a very long time to respond to every question in detail. But I've got a big team here, Honourable Speaker. Some of the team sitting up there, some of the team behind me. We can come with detailed written responses on all the questions. But I think for the sake just to do it justice, Honourable Speaker, maybe I'll just touch on, and I'll just respond to one question under everybody's, and I'll just try and touch on one. I'll try and aim at the difficult questions, and I'll really try and keep it quick, Honourable Speaker, if that's acceptable to yourself, Honourable Speaker. I think it's a good way to, under the circumstances, to manage the situation.
Go ahead, Minister.
Thank you so much, Honourable Speaker. Thank you. Honourable Speaker, so first of all, we have questions from Zombotse Muva. The elderly are complaining. That was a trend throughout the questions. Really, it was something. In fact, if you ask me even personally, what is the one thing that I felt very sad about at the end of the speech, at the end of the whole budget, it was the fact that we couldn't end up lifting the elderly grant. It's the one item that I think we all in the House feel quite passionately about. Honourable Speaker, we have been working closely with the DPM's office to actually try and re-engineer the elderly grants, because as was touched, someone actually touched on the fact that some people that are getting even big pensions are also tapping into the elderly grant, and we need to try and fix that. It just means that we can actually do a whole lot better on an elderly grant if we had to do some realignments there. So that is being done, Honourable Speaker. We need to make a commitment as to say that if that is not done in the next year, by the time we come to the next budget, we have to do something for the elderly, Honourable Speaker. So the DPM's office, as we're talking about it even while we're sitting here, is to say it'll be a priority, and we'll have to have a look at that, and it needs to be done. There isn't another way to respond to that question. That is the facts as we have them. Secondly, we had Honourable from Bonjeni on scholarships for all. When will all get scholarships? Honourable Speaker, at the moment we don't have enough to be able to provide scholarships for all. But the scholarship revolving fund that was established a year ago is now in place. It has been passed by the House. It's been passed at all levels, and we've actually even established a fund. The budget will now start going into the scholarship fund, meaning that all of the monies that get repaid, it's not really a full loan, it really is a scholarship, but there are repayment elements, very concessional repayment elements, and when they get repaid, that fund will now get the budget every year, the 647 million as was touched on, as well as the repayments. The scholarship fund should really start growing and become something of substance, if you think about it, which means every year you're getting back the 647 in time, and you're adding 647, it'll become a fund worth billions in time, and it should really, in time, deal with scholarships for all. But as was touched on, more critically, it's pointless training people and actually not providing the environment to give them jobs. And hence, the budget overall, the main drive was to try and grow the economy, not because we want bigger businesses or people to, it's really so that there's more jobs, better jobs, which deals with unemployment. Minister Tinkundla touched on the fact that the roads is a very big problem. Honourable Speaker, again, many people touched on the fact that roads was a major problem. I think at the moment as a country, we haven't done bad on our main infrastructure roads, the main tarred roads, the main highways. We're up there with the best on the continent in that space. Where we are dismally behind is the rural roads in the rural areas, especially the gravel roads there. Honourable Speaker, what the previous 11th Parliament did was, and it came from the House, was that road agency fund. It has now finally, right towards the end of the previous term, it got passed and it has been passed fully. There's a lot of pressure on the Ministry of Works just to even second officials. If it's taking a while to put the boards in place and do things, second officials and get the fund going as quick as possible. The fund itself, the idea with the fund, Honourable Speaker, is that we shut down what we do at CTA, we shut down that government doesn't own yellow metal, and that we actually do everything through private sector, that every Nkundla centre has their own contractor doing the work for that Nkundla. And in that way, we should really, because now you've got ownership from an MP, you've got ownership from a contractor, and that contractor, this is his job, he must try his best to keep that area safe and the roads at a decent standard. And I don't want to stand here and say it's going to make all the roads perfect overnight. It probably won't, Honourable Speaker, but it's going to be a huge step forward from where we are now, if one can get that in place. And we are on the verge of putting that all in place. It's got good funding. It's getting something obviously from the budget. The moment it is all done, it will be getting something from fuel. And we're considering the road tolls, the money we charge at the borders, looking at possibly lifting those charges, and that funding will flow into it too. So they really should have a decent squama to be able to work with. Honourable from Lobamba was talking about the SACU. One of his questions was to say, I've been speaking about a 13.06, in fact, and also 13.07 was the number in the budget. It moved slightly right towards the end. The number is 13.07 billion emalangeni from SACU in this 2024-2025 budget year. But he's talking about estimates book on page 4, speaking of 11.57 billion, Honourable Speaker. He's suspecting that we cook the books. We don't do that, Honourable Speaker. We don't cook the books at the Ministry of Finance. We try and put them as the facts as they are. And the reason for the 1.5 billion difference, Honourable Speaker, is like I mentioned, we are taking 1.5 billion from the SACU fund this year, and we are putting it into the SACU stabilisation fund. And hence page 4 on the he's talking of how much from SACU is available for us to spend this year. It is 11.57 billion because 1.5 billion is going into the stabilisation fund. We then had questions from Honourable Mbabane East, explain the 2027 beyond debt threshold. So he's got a very good point, even though some of his expressions were not welcome. But at the same time, his questions were very good questions, Honourable Speaker. But he asked us to explain the 2027 debt threshold. So the reports we tabled today on the debts, which we've tabled with our budget, I think it's good that everyone understands this. That is still up until the end of 2022 is the reports that we've tabled here. And at the end of 22, Honourable Speaker, we were on a very, very unsustainable debt path. It's only the year that we are in and the year that we are going into that we've now caught this thing. We have now brought it in line. From where we were aggressively growing into debt, we've now flattened out, and we are now on a much better path on our debt sustainability. And hence, the risks will be shown that had we not done what we did and made some tough decisions, we would still be on that path. But it's speaking about the trajectory that we were getting into, and we're no longer on that trajectory, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Matsanjeni North spoke about the increase of RDF. And I think in general, Honourable Speaker, there was a general feel, generally, Minister, increase. Honourables, the bottom line is, as I touched on in the budget speech, if we had double the amount of money in the budget, I don't think we would have enough for all of our needs. Unfortunately, the budget that we have is too little to take care of everything. It really is a matter of balancing. And a few of you touched on it and said, Minister, it's a well-balanced budget. That's all it is. It's not an enough budget. It's definitely just taking what we have and putting the resources into the most critical places and trying to get that balance right. It's about a balancing act, not necessarily putting enough. And so, but we do agree the reason why we very much support the RDF and the CDF, and that is because it does have a lovely impact at the Tinkula centres and right down to the people on the ground. So as the years go by, we'll definitely continue to try to see what we can do with those funds, but unfortunately, sources are limited, funds are limited. A few of the members touched on, sorry, I see a question here from Matongwa Neni, if I'm pronouncing that right, Dorcas Klope, Honourable. The TLC is a question also raised by a few Honourables. Honourable Speaker, the Minister of Health has now instituted, I think it was in the newspapers, instituted a team to look into how government can better help the TLC. For information's sake, though, under Head 60, which means it's not that clear exactly what is there, but there is a 30 million. In fact, the Finance Portfolio Committee advised us even put more in there, but they actually advised us to put something in there, so we ended up putting something in there for TLC at 30 million under Head 60. So the moment the study is finished, at least there's some money, Honourable Speaker, to try and see what we can do to try to support the Luke Commission. We agree, Honourable Speaker, the impact they have on the people is significant, and we do need to, as government, try and do our best to try and support them. The Minister of Public Service was that budget targets for growth is good for the Ngwe Declaration. Honourable Speaker, is correct, and that is that the budget holistically, if one asks, because again, Honourable Speaker, by the time, and again, I'll maybe speak personally, I was hoping that a 3 billion increase would have more targeted impact somewhere, but it ends up going in between everywhere, and you end up touching on a whole lot of places. You actually don't somehow get that feeling of, oh, you know, there's a billion we've put towards some special new project. This budget, we didn't really start anything new. We really were trying to do it, but because the budget was focused on finishing projects that have been taking years. I mean, the Minister of Economic Planning is always complaining to say, you know, we add a project and we add a project and we're just not finishing these projects, meaning they cost so much more because a contractor stays on site. So there's now very specific focus. We're trying not to add new projects, and we're trying to say, let us just get the projects finished. And that is one thing, that's one advantage that this budget is doing. It's finishing a whole host of projects that have really been stretched out for years and taken way too long to finish. And the beauty of finishing them is we now get the growth from them. Yes, doing capital projects does help with growth. You have people working on the construction sites, but when they are finished, there's a much bigger growth impact because now Lucid Phase 2 or the ICC, whatever it is, actually starts working, and you start getting that original idea of the impact for that. We then had the Honourable Lobamba Lomtsala asked a few questions too. The budget was not speaking to food. And again, I think he touched on that, and many MPs touched on the fact that people are hungry out there. We need to do more about that. Honourable Speaker, we hear that. We do know that there is a problem as what is being discussed here around that. Again, Honourable Speaker, balancing the budget is very difficult. You know, our government, some governments on the continent lean towards being very socialistic too quickly before they get the growth right. And I think someone was touching on it too in the room, is to say that getting that balance right between giving more OVC funding, giving food, giving grants, giving, you know, on the social side of government. If we have to lean too heavily there, we then don't get the growth that we need to get to actually get us out of the problem in the first place. So this balance of trying to say, let us try and do what we can to try and help the situation, but at the same time, let us do what we can for growth, because otherwise we're going to remain right here where we are if we spend every cent that we have on social things and not on growth. That balance is very tricky. But we do take the concerns of the House. Obviously, the DPM is with me here. Where there is hunger in the country, we definitely need to see what we can do to address that. We know that there's a whole lot of donations coming. We know there's a whole lot of organizations helping us in the country, and we'll definitely see what we can do going forward to try to help on the food where there is hunger in the country. Make sure we don't have people suffering from hunger in the country, Honourable Speaker. The Honourable Deputy Speaker spoke about security forces, homes very depleted. Honourable Speaker, what we have found, what we have had a look at, and that is that we need a lot of money in this space. It is true, unfortunately, we don't have the budget room for that. And so what we considering at the moment, Honourable Speaker, and we'll still come to the House with this, is using the Housing Board. In fact, just this week at Cabinet, we actually had big meetings with the Housing Board. They've got about $500 million, which has been approved by the House when it comes to a sovereign government guarantee that they could use, get that housing scheme going again, and then possibly come to the House, even ask for more sovereign guarantee to give the Housing Board to continue with institutional housing rollout. At the moment, it looks expensive, but the reason why it looks expensive is because we are, as government, buying it back in 15 years from the Housing Board, so we're paying the loan in 15 years. It's not a rental, it's a buyback. At the same time, though, the beauty is they maintain, Honourable Speaker. Government, we're not great at maintaining stuff in general, which we need to try and fix. There's extra money in this year's budget, but just historically, we just haven't been good at maintaining things. They maintain the houses that they do very, very well. And for that reason, we're looking at supporting them and expanding quite heavily on that housing scheme. And that really, I mean, they showed us photos even in Cabinet of some police houses. It was embarrassing, Honourable Speaker, to see the dilapidated state of some of our security forces where they are living. And so it is a focus area. I really do believe in a short space of time, we'll really start seeing that rollout. And I'm hoping to come to the House to ask for more sovereign guarantee for this plan and for that rollout. The nice thing about that sovereign guarantee, it doesn't need budget space because our budgets are under pressure and we can do that outside of our budget. Minister of Labour, he mentioned that there's no more this year on scholarships, and he is right. So I don't want to try and create an impression. Our scholarship budget has not increased this year. It is the same as last year. Honourable Speaker, it's just that I think I highlighted in the budget because last year we gave a significant increase. I think we took it from 360 million to 647 million, and so for that reason, Minister or
Sibonga kakhulu Minister of Finance.
uhambe kanjalo ke umsebenzi wayo indlu yabayisikhulu lapho khona bekudingethwa khona emaphakelo elive kanti indvuna yetemafa kubheka ukuthi ithule umbiko wetimphendvulo letibhaliwe tako kudingethwa kwemaphakelo eminyaka imali wa 2024-2025 kanti mbukeli sibonga kakhulu ukuhlasana nathi ehlelweni lomuhla sibonga kakhulu nayo imivo nako kusesekela khona ehlelweni tinkundleni etahlukene tako kuchumana mbukeli ungadzinwa uchubeke usesekele impela mbukeli phinza uhlanganyele nathi evikini lelitako ngaso sikhathi lesifanako samkelisiwe khozana lonke libanda lekulethela nahlelo Tasephalamende sithi usuku lokuhle.
Be sure to catch Business Watch every Wednesday between 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. where we feature the latest updates on business news, market trends, and exclusive interviews with industry leaders.